Ratchet, real. Righteous, ratchet, real.
Righteous, ratchet, and real. Righteous, ratchet, and real.
I feel exposed. Okay. Welcome to the Righteous, Ratchet, and Real podcast. This podcast is for people who love God, but sometimes side-eye the church.
We're three friends balancing the secular and sacred, the righteous and ratchet, as we discuss current topics through a gospel lens.
We might say some things we're not supposed to.
But you are probably thinking it anyway.
You know how we say in the church. Charge
Charge
it to our head
and
not our heart.
We're going to keep it real. Hey, good people. We see there are already some people online. Welcome to another episode, the live episode of the Righteous, Ratchet, and Real podcast. And we're so grateful that you are here. We're going to bring in one of our guests, and we're waiting for the other ones. Technical difficulties, but we just pause right now where we are. And so if you are in the live, just go ahead, tag somebody, share it. We're even going to take our time right now to do it. That's how we do. Yep. We want to make sure that we get as many people into the conversation as possible, because this is not just about us talking, but this is also about you guys just sharing. And we want to make sure that the people come in, visit, talk with us. We want to hear from everybody. And so we are celebrating Women's History Month. Hey, anybody here for it? Thank you. Lana Rice already went ahead and tagged somebody to join the conversation. Thank you. And so we are excited about our guests today. We are going to be introducing one of our classmates.
Yay!
How we do over here, we bring in all of our folks, right? We didn't just graduate and leave our friends behind. We bring our friends into the conversation. And so we are so blessed to have, he's going by Dr. Kirby Spivey. He didn't want to do the reverend part, so we go just do what he said. Oh my God. He's showing up as Dr. Kirby Spivey III. He is teaching in the Africana Studies Department at Virginia Polytechnic State University. Okay, bruh.
Awesome.
He was over here. Look, yes. You're teaching. Anybody got a job for me? Just, But anyway, he is also working on some innovative virtual ministry projects, both in the States and the continent of Africa through Reach. So we are so excited about you. Okay, so our other guest, I'm gonna let him. We're gonna go ahead and introduce him, and we see his chat. Y'all stretch your hands to technology, right? Stretch your hands real quick.
In the name of Jesus, the blood of Jesus.
Okay? Right. Plead it old school in the name of Jesus. But Greta, I'm gonna throw it to you and let you introduce our other guest that's coming on for this episode.
Absolutely. Well, when he comes on, the other face you will see would be that of Walter Johnson, a very good and dear friend of mine. We graduated not at the same time. I am considerably older. Graduated at from the same university, Alabama A&M. He's a former church member of mine, comedian, just a dear brother, Walter Johnson. I knew he was my brother when we ate chicken wings from the same place in Birmingham. He's also from Birmingham. And we like the same grape drink, Grape-A-Cold. That is the best grape drink on the earth. So when he said that, yes, I knew that was my brother. Plus, he is your frat brother, Kirby. So hopefully y'all can hang. Hopefully y'all can hang. So when that face comes, that will be Walter Johnson.
Awesome.
So I'm just trying to ask, Grapico.
Grapico, yes.
Is that a Southern thing?
I think it's in the South. Same as if Buffalo Rock. You ever heard of that? I don't like that, but that's the same company that makes Buffalo Rock. My folk in the South know exactly what I'm talking about. Same company that makes Grapico.
Okay. Now, are there any other flavors besides grape?
No.
I'm assuming Grapico. No. Okay.
Grapico. And if you ever go through Alabama, please stop and get you some Grapico.
I don't like grape soda, so I was trying to
change your life. I'm telling you, it'll change your life.
So I didn't. I wasn't very hopeful for it.
You went hopeful.
I was trying. I was like, maybe if they have another flavor, I could sneak in on that tip. But nah, I'm out. Maybe Buffalo Rock.
I was about to say, if you like a spicy ginger ale, that's Buffalo Rock.
Now that might be the one, because I do like a good spicy ginger ale now.
Yeah,
because our grandmothers had already told us that it cures everything, right?
Everything.
So it cures heartache, headaches, all of it.
So real quick, when you get chicken pox, or when my age group, when you got chicken pox in the South, you had to drink warm Buffalo Rock. I don't know why. But that was the cure-all that most, that and calamine lotion. You didn't drink the calamine. But anyway, that was the cure-all of mothers and grandmothers everywhere across the South. Hot or warm Buffalo Rock.
All right. See, they're on to something now. I will try that when I go through Alabama. I'm not sure when that will be, but I'm going to put some Buffalo Rock on my list to try, like on my way when you have to stop. What's the hot dog place that everybody talk about in the South?
What? Sneaky Pete's?
Cookout.
Oh, Cookout. Oh, I went way back with Sneaky Pete. Okay, I'm telling my age now. Yes, Cookout. Yes, that's true. That's a good one.
We got Cookout.
Okay.
Yeah, in Virginia, y'all do have Cookout in Virginia. Look,
they
when
have
we travel down south, like everybody be like, we gotta find the Cookout. We gotta stop at the Cookout. I'm like, y'all, it's only the milkshake for me, and it's cheap. It's
it's cheap.
It is that.
And so the running joke is, one of my friends was like, oh, you know what the problem is? You tried it sober. I said, well, I didn't realize you got
to What was your question earlier, Kirby? Does it taste like what?
Does it taste like Verner's from like Detroit
Verner's
area?
I thought you said, does it taste like bourbon? I'm sorry, Kirby. I really did.
I guess that's the ratchet part, huh?
That's the ratchet part. We ain't even there yet. It just comes up. I'm sorry. I really thought that's what you said.
Oh man. I'm trying to think. Walter, are you on a computer or are you on a phone? I'm trying to think what the issue may be, because I see him. It just says device is not connected. He's on a laptop. And
oh wow.
He tried logging on with his phone as well, and nothing. I'm trying to figure out. I've never had this issue before.
Right.
And I'm like, I know sometimes they say it used to be Apple products. You had to go into a different browser.
Yes, that is true.
Yes.
You need to be on Google or Chrome or something. Walter, that's true.
Yeah, so that might be it.
Yep.
Okay, he's trying that now. Look, we're getting a little closer, y'all.
Safari won't do it. I don't know about Firefox.
Yeah, I don't know about Firefox, but I know for sure Safari won't do it. You have to be in Google Chrome. Well, we're gonna get started while we're working on the technical difficulties. And so we do this thing here for the live episode called rapid fire questions. And so Walter will get the version. He'll be still hearing it, but Kirby, you just go, this is just off the top. You ready? You ready for this? Okay.
Let's go.
Kirby got it.
What's one thing that you love when the sisters do it? What's that one thing you're just like, it's a sister thing?
While he's thinking, I was saying to myself, is this the ratchet part, Keisha? But I didn't want to. I didn't want to go there,
it's
but
not the ratchet part. It's whatever.
Okay.
I got it. Walk.
Okay. Now this is true. Sisters have a bad walk. Like, when they know a dude watching, they got that walk.
Is it like the wait until his hair walk?
Yes, just like that. He's watching me walk away.
Right.
Walk.
Yes.
That's a good one. Okay. What's your favorite hairstyle to see a Black woman rock?
Locks.
Okay.
All
right. Okay. You into the locks. Okay.
And natural hair, but locks.
Locks. Okay.
Walking in locks.
Look. So I am going to ask you a question from a reporter that they did on the red carpet for Hello Beautiful. I thought the question was so wonderful. I wanted to make sure that nobody thought it was my question because I thought it was such a great question. What do Black women deserve?
Everything.
You speak on it.
Everything. Black women have borne, bear, probably will bear the burdens of us all. The men they love, the children they love and nurture, Black women carry it. And so because of that, they deserve all of the things, all of the good things.
Amen. We're here for that. Black women deserve everything. Everything.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to go ahead. We'll get started. Walter will come in. We'll let him go back and I don't know, maybe is he still in the chat? Maybe he could even answer the questions and we can say that. So we'll see. He looks like he might still be working on coming in. So we're in Women's History Month, and we have been inviting women in to the conversation, just talking about womanism, talking about where it is Black women are today, and just having this conversation. But we feel like it's often a conversation that women are asked to talk about, and we don't often ask the brothers to come in and share in that conversation. And so that was one of the reasons why we said, you know what? Let's bring the dudes in to have this conversation about Black women. We've heard the voices of Black women talking about it, but we wanted to make sure that we brought men in. And so there's so many podcasts. The Deceased Person, who, always talk about Black women and lean in on these tropes and really kind of denigrate, Black women. And Black women are often, portrayed in the media in such unflattering light. And so we wanted to ask you guys to just really reflect on your relationship with women. What that looks like, especially women in the church and their faith. What you've learned from your mothers and your grandmothers. And, we don't often ask men to talk about that, right? We definitely ask the sisters, we go to a Mother's Day tea and we're like, what did you learn from your grandmother? But
what wisdom doth she give?
But women do not just mother women.
Right.
Nope.
They mother boys as well. And so it's important that we invite brothers to reflect on the conversation. How did the women in your church and in your family shape your faith experience?
So I'll start with my family.
Okay.
So I grew up in an old school family. And so I want to go with my grandmother first. So I grew up in a family whereby we ate dinner together, not just Sunday dinner. like every night at the table.
Yep.
And we prayed together. My grandfather started the long prayer. And my grandmother was second. And in a part of the prayer, everybody had to go around the table and do a Bible verse. So my grandmother's prayer was, "The earth is the Lord, and the fullness thereof, and those in they that dwell therein." For the longest time, I did not know that was the beginning of Psalm 24:1. I just knew that was my grandma's prayer.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
My grandmother was so both of y'all are AME sisters. I grew up Baptist, right? And so my grandmother was the church clerk. So she's responsible for all the records, all the things, the bulletin, everything. So I saw her working in the church, and not even just working in the church. Her house was like, if anybody in the community needed anything, they'd come knocking on my grandmother's door. And I was, at least until I went to school, I was raised by my grandmother, my grandparents. So I got to see all this. I got to witness all of this. My mother was the superintendent of Sunday school.
Okay.
So I got kind of double dose. So any of the, Christmas, Easter things, what's this called? Tom Thumb, whatever.
Tom Thumb wedding.
Yes.
What is that? Wait, we got the pause right there. What is that?
It's like a make-believe wedding that serves as a fundraiser for churches.
Yep.
That's the best way I can describe it.
I'm AME, but I grew up Baptist, Kirby. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, because of my grandmother's position and my mom's position. Hey!
Yes! There he
Yo
is.
to the news. Let's go.
Yeah. What's up, Greta?
You got the echo, bro. You got the echo.
All right, let's see.
It's because of the other
You got
whatever. Kick it out the studio and it should fix it. There we go.
Yeah. So then I'll go faster now. So anyway, my mom would always give me the longer parts or all the things to memorize and blah blah, all the things. So my parents, my mom, my grandmom played a tremendous role in shaping my faith journey. And so those are just within my family. And of course, I grew up in a village space. And so, Miss Frazier, Miss DeLee, Miss Jamison, all of these Sunday school teachers, all these women fed into me. And, I didn't want to be a preacher. I was in seminary not wanting to be a preacher. But anyway, all that is in me still. And so in a real sense, if it wasn't for the women, what weren't for the women, I would not be who I am today as a spiritual man.
Amen.
Yeah. So Walter, we're going to skip back over to you and give you the opportunity to tell us what's one thing that you love that sisters do.
One thing that I love that sisters do. What's one thing that my wife do? The confidence in Black women. I love it. I love confidence in Black women when they speak. I mean, I already think that Black women are, I think very, very highly of Black women. And I think, I know people joke around, but I think Black women are the mothers of the earth, that God role. Black women are. I can go on and on and on. I can go on and on about Black women.
We can hear it all.
We hear it in your voice. Yes.
Listen, man. Oh man. But yeah, a woman's confidence, definitely confidence. With given so much women have to go through and endure, but to still embody that confidence.
Amen. What hairstyle do you love to see a Black woman rock?
El Natural and locks. I just started my lock journey, so trying to convince my wife to get locks. It ain't working right now, but I'm trying to, man. I'm trying to. Yeah, that natural look in that state, I love it, love it, love it.
It's funny because my significant other is always talking about locking my hair. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm fine.
I mean,
My hair's natural.
I pour my heart out to my wife as far as locks and everything. And she said, okay,
She's waking up the pictures in her face. She try to subliminally.
I talked for 5 minutes explaining, and she said, okay, I said, all right.
When you said that, I was like, something ain't getting no locks.
He is absolutely not. He is absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nope.
Yeah.
So to go back to the question from the red carpet, from Hello Beautiful, what do Black women deserve?
The world, everything, every single thing in this world, everything. Black women to you guys go through things that I know for me personally, I couldn't fathom or imagine. You all going through, whether it's childbirth, whether it's just the things you all go through, and still have to sometimes take control, right? Women in leadership positions, so a woman can be going through so much and not wear it, but just have to push through. You know, you have some. I mean, I can go different routes. Even when I think about single mothers, right? Some women who it was not their choice to become single mothers, but they wake up and they don't miss a beat, right? They just have to. They wake up. They just got to keep going. You know, unfortunately, sometimes men walk away, but women, there's no walking away. A lot of times, there's no walking away. You know, and so I mean, we all go through things, but the Black woman, man, yeah. Black women deserve the world. Everything in this world, Black women deserve.
Amen. Look, we picked the right brothers for the conversation.
We did. Yay.
Can you talk about how the women in your church and in your family shaped your faith experience?
Absolutely. So, you know, the women in my life, starting off with my mother and my grandmother, you know, they molded, you know, I had a praying mama and praying grandmother. They prayed all of the time over me, for me. And they really, really, really taught me about prayer and ministry. I mean, I would watch my grandmother rock back and forth and just hold on to herself, not really knowing what that meant back then, but understanding now. It's like that sometimes. It's like that sometimes. It get good to you. But understanding that through prayer, things change, right? Even when I wasn't really praying for myself as I got older as much, my mother and my grandmother, they never stopped praying for me. I'm still living off of their prayers. I know I am, you know. They didn't stop, and they taught me prayer, you know, to keep praying no matter what. I still see my mom getting on her knees praying at night and in the morning, and we talk about that, you know. And I've watched what my mother has gone through, and to still be that strong woman. It's through her prayer, her faith, that she can talk about it, but she's made it this far. So, and even with my grandmother, you know, times where I would go home and just try to shut out everything. I can lay on my grandmother's lap and she'll pray. She'll rub my hair and she'll just pray and pray. And it was so soothing. It calmed me down, whether it was a show I'm getting ready for or whatever it is. Just that peace, just that calmness is what I needed, just to calm down. Those two women heavily impactful in my spiritual life. And even now, I still call my grandmother and talk to her, just remind her some of the things that she's told me, that she's taught me. And we both talk about how good God is with each other, you know. So my mother and my grandmother, I mean, they started it, you know, got me on the right track with prayer. Of course, my dad was a deacon in the church. He was heavy in church as well too. And my mother, she was in the choir, and my grandmother was the superintendent. She was also a deaconess. So everybody in my church was working. It wasn't even my twin, my oldest sister. We all had jobs in the church. Nobody was just sitting in church not doing anything. And we watched them, so we knew what the responsibility was. We knew, all right, we're not just coming in church just to be, for attendance. We have work to do in the church. And they made sure we had work to do in the church. They made sure we did, whether it was revival, vacation Bible school, which I don't know if we do vacation Bible school, but vacation Bible school, all of that, year round, they were heavily involved and made sure we were involved too. Even if they didn't go, they made sure we went, and I'm very, very appreciative of that, because taking that into my adulthood, leaving, going to college. Shout out to A&M. I heard you mention A&M. But in going to college, I really had to execute what they taught me as far as praying, because it's just me up there now. So I have to remember, okay, this is what I was taught. If you don't do anything else, pray. Talk to God, pray. And being on your own is when you really have to use that. Being away from mom and dad that you can't touch and grab and hold, letting you know everything is going to be okay. You really have to use what you've been taught. And I'm thankful, not only for those two women, but even the women in my church, just watching them, the mothers of the church, so even the ones who would take my gum when I was chewing it. But I can appreciate them too. That's that discipline. Yeah, exactly. Come on, and they'll point, hey, get him. Come here, give me your gum. Yeah, all of that. And I had an attitude, but I understand discipline. And it's because of what they taught me, what they showed me, the structure and the discipline on how to carry yourself in church. I still do that now. It's different when I see Churn, not I grew up Baptist. It comes out of me, based off how I was taught. Hey, nah, sit down. Ain't no moving. Be still. That's what I was taught. And even when I'm sitting down, even if I'm on the drums, I can see my mom trying to make eye contact with me. If I'm talking or if I'm laughing or whatever it is. But I'm thankful for what they taught me, and what they continue to teach me. I still learn from. It's times where I struggle. I need reassurance, and I will call my mom or my grandmother. I need to hear something. I'm struggling to hear something, and I know I can count on them for that.
I got to jump in real quick, because you said they would try to make eye contact. There is no eye contact like a Black woman in church trying to get to her children or her grandchildren. That look will straighten you up.
Completely.
And put the fear of God in you.
Just a stare.
Just the look. You better get your life. That's right. What it said. Get your life before I do.
I can almost feel it. Like when that's there, I can feel it. Whether it was a pinch, and she used to twist it.
Ooh, come on.
All of it.
My God. All right. So I want you guys to please think. Hey, Sheila. I want you guys to think about the women that you saw in your church growing up. Do you feel as though there were times or just period where the patriarchal structure held those women back? And if so, in what ways?
What year did you cross, bro?
05.
All right, I'll take deference.
Wow.
Fall 96. Looking back now with my now eyes, there was definitely patriarchy happening.
Yeah.
The women were running things, making sure everything happened. I didn't have access to the finances of my home church that I grew up in, but I know, the 80-20 demographics were so, if not more. And so I grew up in a church where the deacon sat on one side and the deaconesses sat on another side.
Right.
And the deaconesses were not female deacons. Right. So there was no gender equality going on there. And there were no women preachers in my home church that I grew up in. Even though they would bring evangelists to come and preach on some special services sometimes. So I definitely, looking back at it, I can say, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there was definitely patriarchy happening in the home church that I grew up in. And as I progressed in ministry and in life, I sought out places that reflected more of what I think and am theologically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll fast forward to seminary. I never took on the perspective of, women can't preach, women can't do this, blah, blah, blah. Because my cohort, not you guys, but my MDiv cohort, many of the sisters were a part of that cohort, and we worked hard we studied together. We were going through the same things together. I saw their gifts operational. Pardon me for that. So there was no question for me experientially.
Mm-hmm.
And even as I got better understanding of the scriptures, God calls who he wants,
Mm-hmm.
right? And uses whom he wants to use. We talk about Moses, but we don't talk about Miriam in the same space.
Right.
But she was a part of the liberation movement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it's not for Miriam, he probably don't make it. So anyway, I went on a little bit of a tangent. And nowadays I'm looking at the text, the Bible, differently to try to deconstruct and decolonize everything, whether it be sexism, racism, whatever it is. I'm looking at the text differently nowadays because of the harm and hurt that is done in history.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna have to talk about that deconstruct and decolonize on a separate one, because I'm right there with you on some stuff. Absolutely. Walt, what about you?
So, what I saw growing up, so I've been in church since early as I can remember, about 5. And then being on my post every Sunday at 9 years old. So from 9, playing the drums all the way up. My church growing up in Birmingham, it was male dominated. And we only would have guest speakers or women speakers or evangelists on certain programs, whether it was Women's Day, really specifically Women's Day, or Usher Board Anniversary. Those were the only 2 in which women preachers were allowed to speak. And it wasn't until later that I found out that our actual pastor and associate, they had issues with women in the pulpit. And I remember at a younger age not really understanding why and trying to make sense of it. And I never could. I really just never could, because and I saw, again, kind of being green to it. I saw frustration and I saw great women who I knew of in the church no longer attending the church. Of course, I had questions as to why, but understanding now, okay, I see, what was going on. Again, I was young, so I wasn't privy to a lot of information, staying in the child's place. But I would still hear the rumbling and the talking, and through emotion and frustration, I was given a little bit, well, if I can't preach or if I can't stand in the pulpit, I'm leaving, and we lost, from what I saw, at least from my understanding, what I can make of it, powerful women and impactful women that I would actually listen to, women at a young age that can speak on where I can understand, and I appreciated that. And then to look up and then they're no longer there. That was back then. That's not the case now, and I can appreciate that, and the articulation in women. Of course, brother, I love to hear you preach. I love because you taught from beginning to end.
Thank you, brother.
That's the way I understand like that, and I was always appreciative, and I would always love it. And I didn't get a lot of that growing up. It was, I can count on my hand the times that I saw women in the pulpit. You know, it just wasn't and I remember my mom and I having a conversation. She broke it down to me. Of course, she didn't agree with it. She didn't like the fact that women weren't allowed in the pulpit. But she was kind of explaining to me just kind of on the surface level, but it's just through understanding, reading, and understanding from my own. I'm glad that I don't see that as much. It could still be happening in some churches I'm not aware of, but I know from my personal experience now, the articulation of women, the passion that women speak with when teaching. It's men and women, we convey messages differently, and so I think now I love to see it versus growing up not seeing it really often.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you talked about was just how impactful women were in your whole experience, right? Both of you guys have shared about that. And so we can pretty much agree that in many church spaces, even in church spaces where women were being ordained, come on, AME folk, we've been ordaining folk, but that doesn't necessarily mean we've been allowing them to step into leadership roles. And so we kind of like give you an inch and we're like, this is the space we're giving you. Do you guys feel that you were seeing reflected women leadership as much as, let's say, what we see in businesses? Are we seeing that same level of women pastors, women, running the important boards in the church? Is that your experience?
Go ahead, Brother Johnson.
I think we can stand, from my experience, we can stand to see more. I joke around, but there is some truth in women make sure things get done. The detail that women are more detailed to me. I think we can stand to see a little bit more leadership role in the church from women, because again, that detail that that women bring. I know my personal experience. I couldn't do anything without my wife. She helps. She makes our house a home. And so as far as church, the church can stand to me. In my experience, we can use more women in leadership in a leadership capacity in church.
Can I just jump in there for a second with an amen, boom, shakalaka? Because bless it, I love men. I do. I love you guys. But the detail orientedness of it sometimes is lacking. And oftentimes we will promote a man to be the lead and the face of a ministry. And then we'll be like, sis, can you help him out? Because he don't really know what he's doing. Like, can you take the notes? Can you follow through? And I'm like, really? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's just my side. Kirby, jump on in here.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on that because on some levels I don't disagree, but I don't want to specify that only women are detail oriented.
I agree.
It's a gift.
It is.
And gifts are distributed the way that they're distributed, right? So don't just say, oh, let's put a sister there because that sister is going to be detail oriented. That is not the truth.
I agree. Even though I do feel, this is my personal opinion, I do feel like I encounter more women who are, like the A, B, C, D type personality. And men are, in my experience, have been visionaries, wonderful visionaries, and really great at putting people in positions and stuff. But I do agree that it's not a specific gift. Like, it's not a guarantee that because it's a woman, she's going to be able to handle it.
Right.
And it's not to say that we don't complement each other too, because in ministry, God can call somebody who is a visionary and somebody will help that is more detail oriented, and that's what they desire to do. The problem comes in when it's about a patriarchal process that says men need to lead and women need to help.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
I'm sorry, Kirk, but I cut you off.
It's okay.
It's my brother, like.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. It's not necessarily that we need to put men in the leadership space. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, let's not just say automatically that all sisters can handle the details. Because it could be flipped, right? It could be a woman who has the vision and the Lord has prepared a brother to run the details, right? So let's not silo individuals to this space and to that space, because I think that's been a part of the problem in this conversation overall anyway.
Look, we gonna talk about that.
All right, I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit, because this month, with it being Women's History Month, we've also talked about sex. And so changing gears just a little bit.
That was not a part of the prep questions.
It was. She just jumped ahead, but it is. It is. She jumped ahead.
Oh yeah, because okay. Because I want to change. I want to change a little bit. So thinking about what you all were taught about sex, right? How much of that did you get from the church? Let me start with that. Just how much sex education did you get from church?
The sex education that I received from the church was not really sex education. It was more so, don't get pregnant. Nobody talked about the mechanics. Nobody talked about the birds and the bees as if we would. Just don't get pregnant. And if you did get pregnant, it was a whole big, everything, like the sky is falling. It's the end of the world tomorrow. Jesus is coming back, and you're going to hell because you got pregnant. So
okay, and Walter, what about you? Because I got a follow up for that one.
The extent of the conversation was, if you're not married, don't. That's as far as sex education. It not in my church growing up. It wasn't talked about. If someone to that point showed up, came to church that was pregnant, it was a conversation, whether publicly or privately, but it was talked about, especially out of wedlock. So it was, you don't get pregnant out of wedlock, make sure you're married, that's when being fruitful and multiplied was spoke on only after you get married. Other than that, that was not.
And for those who did, whether male or female, how were they treated within your churches?
So I have a personal testimony here. My oldest son was born, Kirby the Fourth, was born 8 days after I graduated from high school. I was not married. And so I remember one of my grandmother's best friends, my mom served as her children's godparent, this woman saying to me, "Oh, you done messed up your entire life."
Wow.
Right at the steps at the intersection right before you go into the sanctuary. She said this to me at the water fountain. And as a consequence, like, how ratchet do y'all get on this show?
It's righteous, ratchet, and real. So it's on you.
If that, like, you've known me my whole life. And now I'm 17, 18 years old, and this is how you're going to do me? And this is how my village is going to treat me?
Wow.
Fuck the church. So I went to school with that
Mm-hmm.
mentality and mindset.
Yeah.
Now I said F the church, but Jesus was in me, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I tell anybody, thank God for Kirk Franklin and Hezekiah Walker, because they were my pastor and assistant pastors while I was in school. But that castigation, that alienation, come to find out, a generation before, my mother went through the same thing with my older sister in the same church, but
Mm.
no one had ever told the story.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why our stories are so important. We and we have done historically such a terrible job with sharing in our own families. We don't know medical histories. We don't know just life stories, things that can help others to deal with whatever's going on, to deal with life. Just to deal with life. Well, what about you?
So I, not on a personal level, but my cousin grew up in the church. Like we were all in the choir,
Mhm.
uh, the young adult choir. I mean, the church watched us grow up from babies, elementary, middle school, high school, and she became pregnant, ending like right when she got out of high school. And I remember, Newt, to your point, the same young girl, they began looking at her differently. I mean, she can sing like an angel. She still can sing. I mean, they would love when she sung. And I'm like, this is still the same young lady. This is still the same young lady. But to now try to cast her away because of this, as if she's no longer valuable or that God can't use her. I watch how they made her feel. And that was my cousin. So,
Mhm.
I mean, and I watched that, but I did see when it's close to home, it's different.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, because her grandmother kind of shared those viewpoints of, you get pregnant out of wedlock, you get, until it was her own grandchild, then everything was different.
Mhm.
Everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
And she didn't allow or wasn't going to tolerate and or hear
Mhm.
anybody say those things
Mhm.
about her grandchild. She just wasn't here
Right.
for it because she
Mhm.
knew, you know, my grandchild is not who you all are making her out to be. She's not this. But again, it was close to home. It made it a little bit more personable. And I think once things get close to home, kind of makes you look at it in a different light. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. And last sex question, whether in the church or in your own throughout your family, were the messages the men got different from what you heard or perceived that women got?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Care to share in what way?
yeah. Um, with I have a twin sister and an older sister, and their message was strictly, stay away, stay away.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mine was, son, be careful. That was different. Son, be careful.
You cleaned that up too, didn't you?
I did. I did. I did. Oh, I did. Oh, I did.
I
Oh,
know you did.
son, be careful. That was the message. But it was completely. It was just different.
Yeah.
Um, it was, and then I took that because even going to A&M, I still kind of carried that. I was into my own, but I
Mhm.
was always calling my twin. I need to know where you at. I need to know who you with, whomever
Okay.
you're dating. I need to know I was intimately in her business, his business. I needed to know what was going on because,
Mhm.
like, nope, I don't want you venturing. Again, she could care less what I did. She can care less, but it was
Mhm.
just different, in the way my dad talked with me about it, my mom talked with me about it versus my sister. Uh,
Mhm. Mhm.
even when she got pregnant, I was like, I didn't even know you was having sex. Yeah, yeah,
What's
I did. I was like, when did you start having sex? And she was almost 30. Yeah.
That's what I was like. She,
Yeah, she was almost 30. Yep. I'm like, when did you start having sex? Yeah, I just,
well,
yeah, I know.
I got you.
So that's the thing. I think, many of us, in comparing our stories with like men's Bible study versus women's Bible study, women have been taught chasteness, and dudes have been taught the ideal is to wait for marriage, but we understand that you have needs.
Be careful.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And so, do you guys feel like the church has grown any over the years in that messaging?
That's a good one.
So, based upon my experience that I shared with you, when I got into leadership position where I could make the theology, I was certain to go about this differently because I didn't want anybody else to feel what I felt.
Yeah.
Secondly, I had conversations with my sons. I only have sons, biological sons. The daughters that come to me are spiritual, right? And so we can have those conversations. But biologically, the Lord blessed me with sons. And so we would have conversations and we would have candid conversations. I developed relationship with my sons in such a way that we could talk. And it was different. I understood it because I was raised in it. A child has their place and, silent in all this. But that also creates communication issues because when do you ever get to talk about things? So in raising my sons, we would just talk about life. And sex was one of those things that we talked about, especially as they came of age. And coming of age, I'm talking about, when they start liking girls, basically, right? Because don't put an age on that, right? Because if you know anything about the world today, we got single digit kids having sex talk and doing all kinds of things. So I made sure from my sons and in my ministry as well that we would have real talk conversations. So I never taught abstinence. And the reason why I never taught it is because it doesn't match with biology. Like the way the hormones race, I don't think it is reasonable even to think naively that these kids are not going to or even at least think about sexual things. So, and not only did I teach it, I told my youth minister, this is how I want the conversation to go so that we could really train and develop these young people mentally and spiritually to understand what's happening with their bodies and then make an informed decision.
That is just powerful that you instructed your youth minister. Because that's often where the conversation happens. And sometimes, like the pastors may think one thing, but then the youth minister is bringing in somebody who's, trying to get them to sign a contract at 13 about what they're going to do the rest of their lives so they get married. That's a whole other thing, but Walter, do you have anything to add before?
Not a whole lot to that. It just, I think, I was like with my dad when we talked about it. He was more so. He spoke going the lines of wait until you find the right person. And I'm thinking, I wanted the conversation to go a different way, like talk to me, like let's engage, have an actual conversation other than son, just but I realized where he got that from, his personal experience. He didn't get to, and that was the father, that was the trying to protect and trying to get me to, I guess not make certain mistakes. My mom and my dad had my older sister at A&M. Their freshman year, and they came home. My grandmother saw fit that they got married, and they were married over 40 years, but they had been together, since high school. But his experience, everything halted for him at 19. So he had to a father, an adult, mature at 19 to raise my sister. He and my mom both left A&M at the same time to raise my sister. And I learned that was more of him just trying to prevent, prevent that, number one. I don't really want to call it a mistake, but just kind of, prevent that. And, it's the adage of, he's already walked through the minefield, so just kind of be careful in what you step on. And so that was more so his message, son. I just don't want you to have to leave school early because, your potential is unlimited, but nowadays, even I think the difference is, you can still have a child and still make a great college career, great career out versus, in the late 70s.
Yeah.
So we want to close out with kind of what we've been talking about. Womanism has been part of the conversation that we've been having for the month of March, and feminism, Black feminism. And so we want to know, this is kind of going back to what you were saying, part of the problem, Kirby, is that I feel like, oftentimes there is men that are doing the work and saying one thing, and then, womanists and feminists are saying a different thing. And sometimes we're talking at each other from our spaces, and oftentimes not able to find that collaboration. Do you guys feel like the Black church should be engaging more conversations and practices that would incorporate womanism, Black feminism? And do you think it'll be hard for men to deal with that aspect of the gospel? You can be real, Kirby. Just say what you think. Because I felt like he was trying to sanitize it in
Right.
his mind.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
laugh was
Yes.
like,
There's some
how
washing
can I
going
say
on.
this?
Let's see. 2 Wednesdays ago, I teach Bible study on Wednesday night. And all month long in March, I've been focusing on texts that center a woman as what we were going to develop by way of prayer, right? And so, anyhow, 3 Wednesdays ago, I did Miriam's song, Exodus 15. It comes on the heels of Exodus 14, which is the Red Sea experience. And I'm trying, to look at all these texts fresh. Makes a big difference. Big difference. Anyway, what I discovered from that passage was Miriam's song, and I did some, research, not just biblical research. I actually, midrash and scholarly stuff. So in the King James Version, it says that Moses wrote the song based upon the first line that says Moses and the children of Israel sang. And so because of that, they attribute it to Moses. scholarship suggests, I can't remember the name of the scholar, she's out of Duke, said that all of the verses, not just the 2 verses at the bottom, belong to Miriam, because the women's function in that society was to welcome home the warriors who had been fighting. And so the songs, the timbrel, the dance, all of those things were of the women.
Mm-hmm.
I bring these things to Bible study, to real folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even emphasize that so much. I was struck by the language of the poem, which talked about the Egyptians drowning in the Red Sea more than it talked about the children of Israel walking through on dry ground. Usually it's flipped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, this is really interesting. We got this poem about this major event, and all they're talking about is the Egyptians, you know, got drowned in the Red Sea, and Miriam wrote it, and this older sister, probably pushing 70, maybe 70, right around that age right there, she was resisting, like push back, push back, push back.
Yeah.
To answer your question directly, that's just an illustration. It needs to happen, but the way that we do it has to be really finessed, because you got young sisters like yourself, our generation and younger, who are ready for, but then you got the old OGs who've heard this story rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed, and now you trying to add something new. Well, that's not what I've been taught. That's not what I learned in Sunday school. That's not what I've been hearing all 60 years of my whole life. So you can go ahead and sit down, but you know what I mean? It wasn't like that. But we gotta, and in order to do this, what we're talking about, we gotta allow the characters to actually be people of color.
That part.
If you don't see Miriam or Mary, the mother of Jesus, or any sisters in the text as a woman of color,
yeah. I feel that.
Well, you think the brothers and even the OG women are ready for us to come in there and you know, say that divine is she? You know, are they ready to hear, you know, the concepts that say, we talking about Sarah, but Sarah was part of the patriarchy because she allowed her husband to rape Hagar. Are they ready to hear those types of conversations in our churches?
My opinion, I think it would depend on the church and the congregates of the church. Because I know some churches that absolutely would be totally against that. You know, I think there are some churches who would, you know, who I guess more modern, if you will, and will openly listen and try to have that conversation to drive change, right? Because we only know what we know. Some of the things I think what we struggle with is some of the things that we know as far as what we believe or what we were just taught, not personal experience. So we are basing it off what was passed down to us. You know, I was passed down that Eve, that it was an apple that Eve ate. You know, that has flowed down and flowed down and flowed down. And but to bring that up, you know, that's almost that detail that's shunned, you know, because it's outside of what was always taught. So how dare you come and tell me something different than when I was always taught. So I think to have that conversation and invite that conversation, I think it has to be, everybody has to have an open mind and open heart. But I think it opens for a good dialogue, a good discussion. I mean, if we wanted, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So you're looking at another generation.
Mhm.
We can just hand down what we were just taught.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think it. We could definitely speak on it more.
I would also like to add, as Brother Johnson suggests, congregation by congregation, and it will also depend on the demographic and the educational demographic of that congregation. For instance, another Noop, Howard John Wesley at Alpha.
Heard him today. Yay.
He is able to do some amazing, courageous things.
Yes.
But we also must consider his congregation. Right? Like, and if you hear him, if you listen to him, and I study preachers, most of his sermons, especially the sermons where he like is being courageous, it's an argument. It's a sort of apologetic to get people to move them to his point. And he does it very meticulously and carefully through the text. And so you can't argue with the text, right? I think it's that kind of work, right? That kind of courage.
Right.
But then that also type of willingness within the congregation to be able to want to hear and go that deep into the text.
So what I hear with that too, Kirby, is does the congregation or the hearers respect and trust the messenger enough to go with him on that journey?
That is a must. I mean, that's not even in just this conversation. That's any conversation. Right? You can't talk about tithing without trust.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be possible? And I know this is speaking in a very general, and it's church specific, but do you think that a woman would be able to push those same envelopes and people receive it?
Probably not as easily. Just being, if you're not Cynthia Hale or Gina Stewart or whatever name you want to put, Bishop Vashti McKenzie, right? It'd be, I think sisters still have to navigate the ministry space. I'm not a sister, obviously, but I talk to enough sisters to know, like, there's stuff that you just have to be careful about. So I think that's in the conversation. I think that's in the mix.
It brings, the reason why I asked that, because it brings us back to one of our previous episodes. We had Reverend LaVon Brooks on, and I guess we'll drop the Reverend, but LaVon Brooks was on. And so she was talking about that, how people will bring her in and she will preach and the congregation will respond and they'll be like, that was such a blessing. But the pastors be like, we can't have her back no more.
Yeah.
So you are right. Women, I was like, and feminism and womanism, I think oftentimes ends up being relegated to a Bible study safe space. And if you bring it into the Sunday morning, you have to navigate it in a way where you giving them milk. You can't cut up steak for them. They're not ready for it. So it has to be palatable. And it's, just the hope is, just as you brothers have shared, that you've watched the church progress from where your grandmothers were and their level of faith, that you've seen it grow. And so we all just have to, recognize that church is an institution and institutions change very slowly. And so That's the reality of it. We are so grateful for you guys joining us in this conversation, talking about your grandmothers and your mothers and the women in your church and how they help to form your faith experience. We're so grateful for that and just how awesome sisters are and what we bring to the table. We are grateful for you. Sometimes, we get bogged down by all the negative energy that comes, but it is just wonderful and refreshing to hear brothers come to the table and be ready to celebrate the women. We want to give you the opportunity to just let those who are watching now, those who will watch later, know how they can connect with you. So, Walt, if you can go first, just give people how they can connect with you after this and any projects that you're working on.
Absolutely. You can connect with me via Facebook, Walter Johnson, my fan page, Comedian Big Walt, and on Instagram @_Urban Bow. I'm gonna put it in the comments as well too. I do have one project I'm working on. I'm a writer, and we are putting on a Resurrection Sunday production in about a week. And the title is Jesus Died for Me Too. So I'm kind of taking it a different approach this year. So yeah, it's different. I'm a little nervous about it because it's different than the way I normally convey the messages. But it's different. But I'm looking forward to it. So that's the biggest project I have right now. And my buddy John and I, we're trying to work on another comedy show, putting on one. And so Greta, we got to come back up that way.
Please do. We're waiting, brother.
Got to come back up that way. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So your play is going to be in Alabama.
Oh, no, it's going to be up here. It's up here at Mount Zion AME in Kennesaw.
Okay. All right.
Yep. On April 9th.
Oh, you grew up Baptist, but you're AME now. You're part of the family. So if y'all in Kennesaw, make sure that y'all go ahead and see the production.
Do I need to skip my own church and come see it?
You're the preacher, you're the pastor. You can't skip your.
Oh, okay. But I love his plays. He does awesome work. And so if you are able, I would strongly recommend that you go and take a look at it. The brother is bad. I love me some Walter Johnson. So.
I love you, Greta. Thank you. God is amazing. God is amazing. I get to be a vessel. And so I really, I'm thankful. I get to be a vessel.
Yay.
I guess it's my turn now. Okay.
Kurt, come on in.
So Instagram, Kirby Spivey III. Facebook, Kirby Spivey III. I'm doing something new with YouTube, so you can find me on YouTube at Don't Forget to Pray. And another channel I just started called It Reaches. Or vice versa. It Reaches is new. Don't Forget to Pray. It's just a new branding for what used to be Kirby Spivey III. If you put Kirby Spivey, you can find me on YouTube. And I want to celebrate you two sisters, right? Y'all gave all kinds of shout outs to sisters and to us, and I appreciate that. But this platform, this conversation is dope. I loved y'all from the first time I met you. And thank you just for the opportunity to be on with you talking about some stuff, some righteous, ratchet, and what's the other R? Real, definitely real. And y'all made my eyes get wet talking about my mom and my grandma. So
I saw it. And I said I wasn't gonna call you out. I was gonna let you have that moment, but that was meaningful just because sometimes we forget the impact, you know, like we just going about, we know we did it, but that reflection, you know, of the moments, you know, are important. Because like when Walt was even sharing about crying on his grandmama's lap and her parents said, "Oh, Jesus, that right there."
Yeah. And Keisha, can I say real quick? We just want to shout out Renee real quick.
Yes, and I was going to say it too.
Everybody, if you listen to us, you know there's 3 of us usually. But life gets to life and then we get busy. And so she wanted to be with us, but could not. So Renee, we love you. And just want to shout you out real quick.
Yeah.
Definitely shout out to Renee. She was my writing partner for my dissertation. So be well, sister.
Yeah. We all have these moments, and I'm just glad for my sistren who keep it moving when we each got to be like, I can't.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're grateful again. Thank you, brothers, for joining us. Don't forget, Walt, to put in the comments how else the people can find you so that they can get there. Thank you to all of those who watch and all of those who will watch later. We are looking forward to next Tuesday dropping a new episode of the Righteous, Ratchet, and Real podcast.
Yay.
We're out.
Oh,
Woo,
thank you so
woo,
much.
woo.